闇銀行を襲った時と同じ。人から奪ったお金で借金を返して。
Aw, but I want to rob a bank! We open this week with a flashback to Edgy Hoshino, and her senpai, who the credits name Yume, and oh, Mai Fujigami, the voice of Mio from Girls and Panzer, and Alice Yotsuba. So Rosetta influenced Coral. That would actually make a lot of sense, though one was clearly more successful than the other. But yeah, obviously we'd see more of this stuff later in the episode, and also, real solid there having her name literally be Dream to really get across that she's a distant memory for Hoshino. The episode proper opened with the lowly president and Shiroko apologizing for their little spat at the end of the last one. They didn't really clear anything up like Hoshino's transfer, but at least they're on better terms now. Anyway, Ayane revealed her findings that she had spent the past few episodes doing tirelessly, including who was trying to buy out the autonomous zone.
Kaiser Construction という企業であることが発覚しました。
Well, duh.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why the task force acted so surprised, especially when Kaiser Corp has already bought out most of the surrounding area. Like, I don't think they were to hide the fact that they're already surrounded by these guys, as they have already started renovations and construction. That said, like most corporate takeovers, it actually shouldn't be that easy to pull off unless some of the higher-ups gave the okay, which in this case was indeed their school's actual student council, and not these girls. Though they also remembered that Hoshino was a former member of the council. Thus, this club's current president revealed that she was formerly a vice when she was a part of the student council. Though really only in the sense that she and Yume were almost the only actual students left in the school. In those days, they were more like a comedic duel, with Hoshino just going full Ai Hayasaka on her president. Honestly, pretty cute scenes that did help to get across Hoshino's feelings for this girl, and did make it clear that she was trying to emulate her senpai. From there, they discussed how, and more importantly, why everything had led up to this. In the case of the former, it was something that already had been kind of established with the whole concept of the endless loop of deaths that the task force had been dealing with, but on a much bigger scale, with actual parts of the city being sold off by the council. Kind of interesting world building, but also not too surprising at this point. Though the latter point was a little more intriguing. After all, even if Kaiser Corp were like the Walmart of this world, just buying out everything isn't going to be all that beneficial in the long run, especially once those maintenance costs start to pile up. What would a land mostly covered in sand be worth to anyone, other than maybe as the set for the next Dune movie and, yeah, just Dune? Well, as it turned out, the other lowly president with the thighs had already kind of given them the answer.
なんで黙ってたの?
いや、ほら、あの時はいろいろあったし、情報の。
Bruh, just say that you're the player character and you have like only one or two dialogue choices. Thus, the task force decided to do some reconnaissance in the abandoned part of the desert. According to Hoshino, there used to be an actual oasis out there that acted as a popular gathering spot, though judging by another one of her flashbacks, she had never gone to it before the desertification took it. And to think, if they had just gone to see the other precure there, they might have actually gotten some speaking roles in All Stars F. Their search led them to discovering a heavily fortified facility that Kaiser Corp had already built on their freshly bought land. One that had been built by their PMC, or private military company, which surprisingly enough, Nonomi knew what it stood for, which I guess hinted at some of her deeper knowledge about militaries, though I also think they just wanted to give her more lines, as she still hasn't contributed a whole lot to the show yet. If anything, she could have really suggested that they keep their distance and not be so easily spotted. Like, don't y'all at least have some binoculars? However, there was no fight this week, as instead we just got this fruitcake. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick with calling you Alexis Carib. Though to his credit, this version of the Great Man villain wasn't technically doing anything wrong. I mean, yeah, Kaiser Corp was shady as all hell, but they were buying Obito's land through some entirely legal agreements and trades. Hell, he even very generously revealed their kind of Saturday morning villain-esque motivations.
私たちはアビドスのどこかに埋められているという宝物を探して。
Aha! I knew it! It's some guy disguised as a pirate
goes trying to scare everyone off the island.
I mean, come on, who's to say he's not just some dude in a cheap LED mask? Yeah, while this part did sound a little silly, for this sci-fi-ish world, it did make sense. Hell, it would explain why they set up a whole PMC facility, as there was no way it was just meant to take out 5 high school girls with guns. What was actually a little silly was what came next.
来月以降の金利が 3000% も上昇しています。何それ
I'll say, especially when that's good grounds for an extortion lawsuit. Like, not only did Alexis become a little over the top here, but really, if they could have done that from the beginning, then wouldn't they have evicted the school a lot sooner? I think it was more likely a bit of gaslighting from him that he wouldn't actually follow up on. Hell, Hoshino even seemed to back up this point. Thus, while I get that this was meant to be a bit of a threat, it also just made him seem more petty than anything really. Fortunately, him triggering Hoshino by bringing up Yume did leave a little bit more of an impact. Later, the task force tried to regroup after such a verbal beatdown. Okay, what's going on with Shiroko's face here?
Smoke weed every day.
Honestly, they probably should have given her some to relax, as she got the bright idea to just face Kaiser head on. As a result, the task force ended up getting split down the middle on how they should deal with their current situation. Fortunately, and in like what, her 50th good character moment for the show, Hoshino managed to calm her club down and had them agree to disband for the day. And in the last good flashback for this episode, we could really see how far she had come after seemingly losing Yume at some point. Thus, when Sensei confronted her about her transfer papers, we were able to sympathize with her plight, as it was clear that she wanted to protect the memories she shared with Yume. Of course, they then also had to cut out the part where she clarified what her plans for the future were in regards to transferring. Gee, I really wonder if she's gonna just up and abandon her club in their greatest time of need at this point. Yeah, come on, show, you're not fooling anyone, so let's just get right into the next part of the episode and, are the credits rolling? Wait, is there like a C part to this episode? No, it just kind of abruptly ends there. I mean, I guess since they see you tomorrow was supposed to be like a clincher line, like keeping it ambiguous as to whether or not Hoshino was actually going to come in the next day, but still, it's a rather awkward way to just end your episode. That aside, this episode still had some pretty strong world building and very decent drama. Really, it kind of goes without saying that more Hoshino is always a win, especially when it leads to more interesting lore and character building for her. Granted, it would also be nice if the other girls could get a little more focus, as really, this story has been mostly about her and Shiroko. Still, I can't complain too much when they are clearly building to some interesting, and at times, surprisingly deep intrigue. I think one of my biggest criticisms of the show so far still remains its rather unclear world building, like what is the deal with it being a mixture of furries and robots? I'm not sure if we'll ever really get those answers, especially in an abridged adaptation, but still, they did give some really good world building related to the actual plot, which to say the least is really gripping, if only because of the subtle nuances to Hoshino's story. From her heartwarming and good times with Yume, that even seem to lead into her current self, who even tries to dress like her senpai on top of acting like her. Just in general, there was a lot of good visual storytelling here that really made you feel for her. Same can't exactly be said for the Kaiser Court president, who I think they were trying to make seem like a dangerous manipulator, but really, they just made him into an over-the-top cackling villain. Thankfully, he hasn't been too major of an antagonist, and by my understanding, he's only really going to be the big bad of this first arc of the series. I've also been told this was the first time Yume has ever gotten a speaking voice, so that's kind of neat, since of course they would also go with another precure. But yeah, overall, while I do wish that the rest of the task force could get a little more focus, this was still a really good episode to build up Hoshino's backstory and the world around them. Storyboarding and direction were really on point, other than maybe that rushed ending, but whatever, it's not as though I can do that much better. And be sure to check out our other videos on this channel, including the second part of the Max Heart reviews coming out hopefully later this week. Honestly, the second core of that series was a lot more solid than I was expecting. Yes, it has its issues, but compared to some other series I can think of, yeah, it's not that bad. Still, do look forward to it. Until then though, for now my friends, and hey Fred, you should probably not try to pull off that mask too hard, otherwise that'll happen.